I had a small interruption, but it's okay. Let's get going with verse 1 of chapter 10. I gave you the outline already. I explained a little bit of logizomai, which has to do with thinking. This whole chapter has to do with thinking. By now, you should know that what God wants is your thinking. That's why He wants your heart. Your heart is the place where the thinking occurs, or the lack of thinking. But that's what the spiritual life is about. That's what the Christian way of life is. It's not about doing, it's about thinking, thinking, thinking. Once your soul, once your heart is so saturated with Bible doctrine, there's going to be a lot of doing, trust me. For those of you who are anxious to just get out there and start doing good works, the spiritual life is thinking. Just think about a love life, romance, you men. How many times have you had a woman say, I love you, and have no eyes then for anyone but you, and then she goes out and does this and that? Well, those are words. That's a lot of doing. But the thinking was not there. You want that intense concentration. You want her absolute devotion to you. And that requires thought, principle. And ladies as well, how many times have you had a man say, make the right noises, the right gestures, making you feel as if you're the one? But then, what is he? He's a womanizer. He's a jackass of a male who has no principle. He's like an irrational animal that cannot control his instincts. And he just goes out there and is consistently lusting after other women in front of you. Oh, that's love, huh? What about those words that you said to me and all that? Well, it was a bunch of hot air. That's what it was. It's thinking, 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 thinking. You probably have a very superficial idea as to what thinking is. Your definition of thinking is probably, I think so, supposition, subjective thinking. No, we're talking about what's inside of your soul, your thought, the treasure inside of your soul. Okay. Verse 1, chapter 10. I already read verse 1 and the NIV. Let us go with this. So we have this transitional postpositive conjunction day. We're going to translate it and now. Change of subject. The previous chapter talked about super grace and the expression of this gracious generosity amongst the royal family of God. And now Paul is about to address those skeptics, the negative Corinthians. They are believers. They're probably still following the Judaizers. While these previous ones, they have recovered. We've seen the marvelous recovery in chapter 7. Paul was amazed by this recovery, to the point that he said, you're surpassing grace. They've received so much grace, and it's evinced by their great recovery. Paul's about to address the negative ones now. He says in verse 2, certain ones who consider us as walking according to the flesh, according to the sin nature. They're still haters towards Paul and his team. They are legalists. Their theology is compatible with that of the Judaizers and other legalists. And so just because Paul and his team preach grace, they say, those guys, they're walking according to the sin nature. They use grace just for the purpose of living a libertine lifestyle, giving you a license for licentiousness. But, of course, that's a distortion of grace as well, and that's not true. That's not what Paul preaches. So, certain ones. Okay, verse 1. And now, the next word is we have this intensive pronoun of autos. We've seen it all the time in the third person, he, him. In the classical Greek, autos was not used as a third person. So we see in the first person, ego. We see in the second person, su, se. But then there's no third person. So here in this time in the Koine, it was autos. Autos did the job for he, her. In the classical Greek, it was sphice, and I forgot. I'll remember right now. Space. That's what the third person was. And a few other different ones in Homeric Greek. I forgot my Homeric Greek. So autos, yes, but it's not the third person here. It's first person. It can also be used as an intensive pronoun for the first person, because we have ego, I, autos, myself. Myself is in the emphatic position here in the beginning of the sentence. Greek emphasized certain words by putting it in the beginning of a sentence or at the end of a sentence. Here it's in the beginning of the sentence. I, myself, Paul. What is he saying here? Paul has just taken the pen from his amanuensis, and it is himself writing at this moment. So Paul already, once his amanuensis finished writing this, he said, give me that, boom, it's my turn. Before this, it was just Paul dictating to his amanuensis what to write. We see in chapter 3 how, as he was dictating to his amanuensis, he saw a marvelous metaphor of Christ dictating the words to him, as the amanuensis writing inside of the souls of the Corinthians, the souls of the Corinthians being the letters. Paul now takes the pen and he says, I, myself. So what he's saying is, I'm writing now. It's me, myself. Hello, it's me. I, myself, and then Paulos, Paul. Paul's name as an unbeliever was Saulo, Saul of Tarsus. But once he became a believer, he changed his name to Paulos, which means little one. This means grace orientation. Every believer, when he learns Bible doctrine, he begins to see how great and how worthy God is and how little and unworthy we are. And it makes you feel small. You're nothing. We're worthless. We're puny. We're not all that great. We're not all that strong. And people and social media trying to portray themselves as if they're something else is wrong all the way. But of course, people believe it. People see this woman on social media portraying a very happy life and all that. She has everything, and all the other women envy her. You do not know what's going on in that person's life. She's probably miserable. People portray themselves to be very strong at work, in the family, but we're not strong. Just those little headaches that you might have if you have headaches, increase them by 2, or bring it up 3 times 3. Trust me, there's a lot more that you can increase those headaches times 4, and not just times 4, but in different ways, in different areas. It'll ruin your day. That back pain, increase it by 2 or 3. Oh, trust me, you can increase it by a lot more, and in different ways. It's going to ruin your day. That pain inside of that organ inside of you, increase it a little bit. Trust me, you can increase it a lot more. It's going to ruin your day. Any little thing ruins our day. In a way, as humans, we depend on, a general, clearness of soul, a general well-being of our mind for us to have an okay day. A well-being of body, make sure that this does not hurt that much. This, for us to be okay for the day, to have an okay day. But no, if you crank up a pain, it ruins the day. Just to give you an idea as to how puny we are. Well, we're puny, but who is great? God is great. And the more you understand it, the more grace-oriented you become. And hence, the more you rely on him. Paul became grace-oriented. He changed his name to small one, Paulos. I, myself, Paul. He is the one that's writing now to them. He's writing to the Corinthians in general, but with a special view or a special direction towards those who remain skeptic. Those Corinthians who are still negative towards his authority. I, myself, and now, I, myself, Paul, and then the verb. So Paulos is in the nominative. The nominative produces the action of the verb most of the time, so we look for the verb, and it's here, parakalo, first person singular. This omega most of the time implies first person singular, parakalo. The present active indicative of parakaleo. If you wonder why eo and here's o, it's a crassus. Eo and omega crash together, and now you have here this omega with the circumflex on top. Okay? So if you see agapeo or agapo, it's the same thing, but there was a crassus occurring. Okay, παρακαλώ. This word is often translated in many different ways. I encourage you. I urge you. It can even be translated, I teach you. It's a compound word. Kalo means to call, para alongside. So to call someone alongside in the sense of animating someone, encouraging someone. And it has a whole nuance of different meanings. None of them contradicting each other. Here, parakalo means to exhort. Before in previous chapter, I urge. Exhort and urge have similar meanings. It just depends on the content and on the situation. So, parakalo, I exhort. I exhort y'all. This is the present tense and is descriptive for this moment what's occurring. He's exhorting the negative Corinthians. The active voice, Paul produces the action of the verb of writing himself. Paul had eye trouble. His vision was not that well. So he often depended on amanuensis. Peter often also depended on an amanuensis. That's why Mark, the Gospel of Mark, was written, but it was Peter's content. The indicative mood, this is part of this part is declarative, part of him writing. I forgot the exact name of it, but it is indicative. And so, and now I myself, Paul, exhort. And then we have the accusative direct object of the personal pronoun of su, humas, in the second person plural. I exhort y'all. Just like good Southern English, y'all. We're going to use that now. Y'all. I exhort y'all. And then, what is he going to exhort them about? Well, first of all, he's about to engage in some little sarcastic activity because the Corinthians are saying that he's a mealy mouth in person. He's a shy. He has a hard time speaking with boldness in front of people. But once he's out there in social media, he's a social media warrior. And that's what they're saying. That he's a mouse in person, but he's a giant when he's away and writing by the letter. He's called a letter giant. And that's what he heard that the Corinthians are saying. And so he takes that and he's about to mention it. Paul was not a mouse. Paul was not a coward. Put together some of the best men in history, virtuous, courageous men that you can think of. I don't know. Julius Caesar, Otto von Bismarck, whether you agree with everything they did or not, they had great virtue and marvelous courage. Otto von Bismarck, Douglas MacArthur, Robert E. Lee. Get those folks and put them together. And you have Paul. One thing about a person, a man with authority who can really use his authority and really can cause some damage, is that he does not want to use it. So when he does not need to use his authority, he's not going to use it. What I mean by authority is using it in a bold manner. If he wants to use it, he'll use it. All right, let's continue. So I exhort y'all, Corinthians. And then we have dia plus the genitive here, translated through. We've seen dia plus the accusative because, but here dia plus genitive is translated through. So what is this through? Through an attitude. So we can translate it by means of an attitude, by way of an attitude. So dia plus the genitive. It's more of a manner, in the manner of a mental attitude. Dia plus prauteitos, the genitive of prautes. It's translated in the NIV gentleness or by humility. Yeah, all these words involve humility, but humility has several facets. Here, prauteitos is more of courtesy, a mental attitude of courtesy, of gentleness, of reasonableness. The contrary of this, the antithesis of it, would be something like ill-tempered, brusque, insubordinate, cruel, and this is the antithesis of that. So prauteitos, through the channel or through the manner, in the manner of prauteitos. How are we going to translate it? here. Gentleness, courtesy. Courtesy is a mental attitude. It's a mental attitude of thoughtfulness. Courtesy, gentleness, courtesy, yes. And then another word we have here is epiageias, another genitive. So it's a continuation of the prepositional phrase, the plus genitive plus genitive. There's an article and the first word, meaning that this is a subset of the first word. They go together. One is a mental attitude, another one is a function of that mental attitude.